Hello and welcome to the Headache Doctor podcast, where on this podcast, it's our mission to educate and empower everyone with headaches and migraines so that you can break free from a life of fear of your next headache or migraine and dependence on medication. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about the connection between serotonin and migraine, serotonin and muscle tension. We're going to talk about the interaction of serotonin and why you're taking medications potentially that are interacting with serotonin. Serotonin is like this link to a lot of different things that will impact your situation. And so we're going to dive into that. This is actually stemming from a question from a listener and a patient who is on his own journey and has discovered that this might be a potential issue and wanted me to speak to it. So thank you so much for every listener who chimes in and asks questions and kind of guides where we go with really good insights in your own situation, and we're happy to help. So first off, let's talk about sort of big picture, what is happening with pain and how the body responds to pain, because we need to understand that there's a little bit less, there's less of a one-to-one direct connection between some tissue being damaged. So if you were pinched or if you were bruised, if you fell and you broke a bone, there's not necessarily the one-to-one connection between the tissue is damaged, the bone is broken, the ligament is torn, whatever it may be, and then you experiencing pain. An example of that is you're walking across the road and you sprain your ankle. If there's no traffic, you're probably going to hobble along and limp. If there's a car coming, you're going to hop up and sprint. It doesn't really even matter how bad the ankle sprain was. Your body's going to tell you that you're fine, and you're going to keep moving. And so what happens in between the tissue actually being damaged in your brain are all of these different hormones and proteins and things that are impacting that signal, whether it's upregulating or downregulating, meaning the brain is telling it to, we need to pay more attention to this, or we need to drown it out. So the brain's a control center and it's pulling the shots. It's just telling the rest of the body what to do. So serotonin is one of these things that will potentially downregulate the level of pain that you are experiencing. Now, when it comes to headache and migraine research in particular, historically, there's this thought process that the vasodilation and constriction of blood vessels in the head, that's the thing that needs to be targeted, because there's this sort of dynamic where blood vessels will initially constrict and then they'll dilate, and this response in the blood vessels themselves is what causes them to be sensitive, and you feel that pounding sensation. So a lot of medications that people are prescribed in some way are impacting that vasodilation, vasoconstriction process, and the medication is thought to, it's sort of like a circular reasoning. The medication works, and so the thought is, okay, this is the actual problem that's happening. All right, so we have the tissue damage, we have the brain's response, and then we have the middle area, okay? So we're going to talk about a lot of things in the middle. And just to be clear, this middle ground of what the brain is telling the body in response to the pain signal. Now, you can increase pain, you can decrease pain. There's different scenarios here. If something decreases pain, that does not validate that is addressing the source of the problem. And that's one of the problems in our healthcare system is there may not be as many providers going around saying they understand migraines and this is getting to the source. They probably, I would hope that they would acknowledge the medication is just masking the symptoms. But as an individual suffering with migraines, you likely understand that the medication is not addressing like the core problem. It's addressing this middle ground. So it's manipulating something in this middle ground. Now, the thing that research and trial and error has found to be effective if we manipulate it is serotonin levels. One of the most common migraine medications is triptan, and it mimics the effects of serotonin. It helps to constrict the blood vessels, but it also helps down-regulate pain signals. And so serotonin has a few different roles when it comes to impacting your situation when you have a migraine. But triptans are typically prescribed when you have a migraine and can be some of the most effective. They are abortive, so you just take them as needed, and they're really just, like I said, they're mimicking serotonin. And so serotonin is, we sort of like in our healthcare system, we've zoomed in on what is serotonin doing and why does it matter. But we're going to talk about what serotonin should look like and what happens when normal levels of serotonin aren't there. And then we're going to talk about some more natural, more holistic ways that you can address serotonin levels, okay? So we do see a connection between migraines and what's happening with serotonin, and then also tension-type headaches. If serotonin levels are low, you can have an increased sensitivity to pain. Now, serotonin helps to, again, down-regulate the pain signal, okay? So increased serotonin levels can help reduce that like hypersensitive, ouch, this really hurts sensation to the pain itself. So increasing serotonin levels down-regulates pain. So in something like tension-type headaches, we see a connection between low serotonin levels and your increased sensitivity to pain. We also have seen serotonin's connection to regulating muscle tone and having a calming effect on muscles. So again, low serotonin levels can lead to or be a component of increased muscle tension and stiffness. So low serotonin is not necessarily an environment where you want to be in pain because you're going to have less of that down regulation of the pain itself. And then there's also a connection between low serotonin and increased muscle tone. And then when we think of low serotonin, we also get into these mood disorders like anxiety and depression. And the treatments in Western medicine, the medication attached to anxiety and depression would be these SSRIs. So these serotonin sort of reuptake inhibitors. So it increases the level of serotonin throughout the body, essentially. And so we see low serotonin as being connected to the anxiety, depression type of disorders as well. And so it's the thing that we need to understand, though, is not that serotonin is the problem here. Our body responds to pain, it responds to muscle tension, and it responds to these with what we see as potentially low serotonin, or the hormones, the proteins, the things that send the signals that are responding to the things in our physical world also will match up with this. So chicken or the egg. If you have stress, if you have physical stress and tension through your neck, potentially we're seeing lower serotonin levels. Chronic pain, anxiety, depression, all these things sort of are wrapped up together, because if you're in chronic pain, you're probably a little bit anxious about where is this coming from, and is it ever going to go away, and am I going to be able to function, and is that social outing or my son or daughter's wedding or like whatever it is, it's impacting you in a way that's causing some stress and anxiety. And so you're naturally not going to have necessarily a robust amount of serotonin because you're feeling stressed and you're feeling anxious. So there's a little bit of this like cyclicalness to it, but we do see the connection between serotonin levels being low and that muscle tension, anxiety, depression, things like that. Okay. If we're going to try to modulate serotonin, we can do that obviously through medication, as I mentioned before. And a quick sort of summary of the different medications that are available that you guys have probably interacted with to some extent. So there's the SSRIs, and these are more for the mood-related aspects of lower serotonin levels, so the anxiety, depression. Then the tricyclic antidepressants, so they just enhance serotonin activity essentially, and then we have the SNRIs. So the serotonin, norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. So they increase basically the serotonin and the norepinephrine levels, which can reduce pain. And they use that probably more specifically with like neuropathic pain and fibromyalgia, those types of things like chronic pain, diffuse pain, things like that. But what we want to talk more about are the lifestyle interventions. So how can you naturally increase levels of serotonin through your body? Okay. Well, what we find on our virtual coaching is that when we encourage people to exercise and move more, they see a reduction in the level of physical stress, and their physical body thanks them for that. So we also get benefits of serotonin increasing when we exercise. So we get a boost of serotonin, which will then reduce the level of pain that we're perceiving. Okay. So we have an element of movement being physically good. So it's therapeutic to the body. And so there may be a lower level of pain itself, meaning the tissue isn't as angry. It's not like we're sitting looking at the computer as much, or we're sitting in a weird position. We're sleeping with our head turned to one side. Like, we're not doing the things that are irritating as much when we're moving. And so the tissue is not as irritated, but increasing serotonin levels when we exercise will actually help to downregulate the pain. Diet as well. So foods that are rich in tryptophan, tryptophan's a serotonin precursor and supports serotonin production. So foods that you can consume that would help increase serotonin production would be animal-based sources would be poultry, fish, eggs, dairy products, red meat. And then we've got plant-based sources, which would be like legumes, so lentils, chickpeas, black beans, nuts, seeds, almonds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, walnuts, soy products, so like tofu or soy milk, and then whole grains, so oats, quinoa, whole wheat. Vegetables would be spinach, broccoli, asparagus, and then we've got other sources like chocolate, like dark chocolate contains some tryptophan, and then bananas. They have they're a little lower in tryptophan, but compared to the animal products, but they contain that along with some mood boosting nutrients. So we've got exercise and we've got diet. I would highly, highly recommend, if you're someone who feels like you're struggling with serotonin levels, if I've kind of described you in this podcast and you tend to be more anxious, you just generally have more tension, and maybe your stress levels are not necessarily where you'd want them to be, I would suggest taking the natural approach, exercise and changing your diet, adding these foods into your diet. Overall health and wellness is definitely something to look at. Now, exercise and diet are two major components of that. Moderate intensity exercise, 2 to 3 times a week. So let's say at least 90 minutes a week of moderate intensity exercise. So this is like you're getting your heart rate up. The talk test is a good way to know if you're in the moderate level or not. So you should not necessarily be able to carry on a conversation. I want you breathing your heart rate up a little bit for 90 minutes in a week. And then, your diet as well. Actively, try to increase the level of tryptophans. It's potentially also like reducing processed foods. Really, in any diet, when they're suggesting, okay, you're deficient in whatever this specific protein, mineral, nutrient is, it's the whole foods that you want to go to eat. I mean, there's really nothing processed that would be suggested when we're looking at improving someone's diet. And so try to find whole foods that we can give our body the fuel and the food and the nutrients that it needs, as these foods then turn into our cells and actually provide us with the energy that we need. And so when we get stuck in kind of this cycle, because the problem isn't just like your serotonin levels are low. I mean, pursue the things that are natural. And the individual that asked this question has obviously done, well, not obviously, but So for you, the listener, to me it's obvious, but has done a lot of things to help solve this problem. And I think to some extent, medication can be helpful to onboard and say, okay, like this really helps my situation. And then once you have that medication on board, pursue the things that naturally will help boost your body's level of serotonin levels. Because it's not as if your body has I don't know if there's a situation where serotonin levels like aren't being produced and you're just capped. And the only thing you have to do is to solve that is to take medication. I mean, I think of it differently than like, cutting out your thyroid or something like that. I mean, and having to take thyroid medication for the rest of your life. So there potentially are scenarios in Western medicine, in life, where medication does need to be taken for prolonged periods. But in this scenario, I would say increase your exercise and look at your diet in order to increase serotonin levels so that we can get those benefits of downregulation of pain, the benefits of vasoconstriction, like just a normal response to pain itself, because the environment that you experience pain in is definitely going to impact how well your body's able to deal with the level of tension you have. Now, the pursuit is not that you you get rid of 100% of the tension you're carrying. Even here in clinic, and if we have, a year to work on someone, which our plan of care is typically much shorter than that, but I'm just saying a long time to work on someone. We don't necessarily have the goal in mind to get to zero tension. Life just throws stuff at us. So it's a matter of like maintaining a level of exercise and fitness and health so that our body can cope with that. And so looking at the pain side and the hormone side and how our bodies are responding to the pain signals when they pop up, the brain needs to be equipped to handle those appropriately. And so having a stable level of serotonin levels is helpful. And so find the natural ways to do that. We do know that serotonin impacts muscle tension and then can impact mood. It can reduce your ability to properly respond to the pain signal. And so it is important to consider. And but again, the point of this podcast is not, okay, I might have low serotonin, so I need to take a triptan, or that means like medication is the way. Let's find more natural, holistic, and healthy alternatives to pursue this. And it's amazing how our body functions. And most medications are just sort of mimicking something our body should already be doing. And so if we just tap into the thing that our body was created to do in the first place, we find that benefit without needing those meds, which have side effects and they're not perfect by any means. I think the latest and greatest, like the medication that's supposed to work the best, 50% of people find 50% relief. So there's still a lot of people out there that are struggling, and that's not to say those people have no side effects at all when it does work. Anyways, so here there's not an exhaustive understanding of serotonin and migraines and tension, but hopefully that gets you started. Thanks so much for the question, and to our listeners for being a part of this podcast every week. I hope you all had a great holiday season, New Year's, Christmas. I hope it was migraine, headache free, and that you are doing really well. Now, if you need our assistance, please feel free to reach out at noveraheadachecenter.com or give us a call, 719-598-1010. If you're a regular listener to this podcast and you haven't yet and you're appreciating what we're doing, please write us a review so that we can continue on this journey, and then it'll boost the algorithm in our direction and get this in front of more eyeballs and ears. So thank you all for listening to the Headache Doctor podcast. As always, it's our mission to educate and empower everyone with headaches and migraines so that you can break free from a life of fear of your next headache or migraine and dependence on medication. I'll see you next week.